Every day, hundreds of thousands of patrolmen report for duty, armed with a badge and the latest in video technology. You are about to witness their never-before-seen footage, their stories caught on tape. How in the world do you prepare for this? Or this? Or this? Wait till you see who's behind the wheel of this spinning school bus. And video proof that there's no honor among thieves. Get prepared for some serious disorderly conduct.
You resist me again, I'm gonna put you on the ground.
And don't even think about changing that dial.
You're gonna die if you move!
Oceanside, California. The Highway Patrol races through this community north of San Diego in pursuit of a suspected drunk driver. CHP officers keep a safe distance as the driver speeds past mid-afternoon traffic. They're looking for opportunities to bring this guy to a stop, but then traffic does the trick. A courageous cop decides to try and talk the guy into surrendering, but the driver won't even roll down his window and takes off. The pursuit continues as the black Acura exits the freeway into a residential area of this seaside town. Fortunately, traffic is light. But he's coming up on a busy intersection. As he nears the cross street, the signal is red. But the driver doesn't even slow down. 3 cars are hit in the massive collision, and a pedestrian narrowly avoids becoming one of the victims. A call for multiple ambulances goes out, and officers converge with guns drawn. It looks like a major tragedy, but slowly, positive signs emerge. The driver of the red truck is dazed, but he appears okay. A man who was in the white Jeep is helped out of the vehicle and is able to walk. And moments later, a female victim is taken to safety. In the end, the most seriously injured of all is the man who caused all this. He is in critical condition, but is expected to survive. Once out of the hospital, he faces a number of felony charges, including evasion of arrest and reckless driving. But everyone who sees this horrific crash agrees. He's very lucky he's not being charged with attempted murder. It's a New Year's Eve drunk driver checkpoint in Queens, New York. Officers have just handcuffed a suspect and prepare to take him in. Suddenly, everyone's world comes crashing down. Just as an officer looks at traffic, a car driven by another suspected drunk heads right at him. One of the officers and the cuffed suspect take a direct hit. The other cop somehow avoids the crash by inches and radios for help. It turns out the crash was caused by a woman who allegedly went out and got drunk after attending a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. She is charged with assault in addition to driving under the influence. Fortunately, both the officer and the man he originally stopped survived the ordeal. Robert Burkhart is doing what a police officer does best, trying to help someone in trouble. The Wichita, Kansas deputy tries to calm an upset woman who was spotted acting strangely atop this bridge. It looks like she's headed to her car, but she keeps on going and suddenly leaps off a 40-foot-high bridge. Deputy Burkhart grabs her shirt with one hand and hangs on for dear life with the other. As his partner and a civilian observer rush to help, the woman's shirt rips and she plunges to the river below. The men are able to pull the 225-pound deputy to safety. If he were traveling alone, it could easily have been a different story. Officers then head down to the river and are amazed to discover the apparently suicidal woman is not seriously injured. She is taken to the hospital for both medical and psychological evaluation. As for Deputy Burkhart, he ends up getting a strained back, a few scratches, and a commendation for his heroic actions. Disorderly conduct is just at the starting gate. The driver of this out-of-control school bus isn't even old enough to drive a car. And later, an officer goes face-to-face with a two-fisted gunman. Lots more shots of disorderly conduct straight ahead. To some people, it's the middle of nowhere. To others, it's simply called the Nevada desert.
Out in the desert past the state line.
Either way, police are racing through this barren land miles from civilization. They're in pursuit of a stolen school bus that can be seen in the distance.
460. He's gonna try and take me head on here.
At the wheel is a 15-year-old boy who's suspected of plotting to blow up his high school with gasoline bombs.
We're getting back on 372 into California.
When the plan fell through, the boy is suspected of using a samurai sword to commandeer this bus from the driver. The driver fled, and fortunately, there were no passengers on board. Now the kid is on the run from the Nevada Highway Patrol. Dust flies as the bus heads towards the California border near state line.
Notify the California Highway Patrol, please. 48, we're still westbound 372. We just passed mile marker 59.
The teen isn't old enough to drive a car, let alone a bus, so the police have to be ready for anything.
I'm having a hard time maintaining this vehicle onto the roadway.
Normally, these would be perfect conditions for a pit maneuver, but this bus is too large. Troopers decide to consider spike strips.
Officer about a mile up the head is gonna spike him.
Police know his feet barely touch the pedals, and the troubled teen swerves again and again during the dusty drive.
Okay, he almost rolled it going off the side of the road. I don't know if he's gonna be able to maintain through all these crests and stuff.
Officers decide it's time to rein in the baby-faced bus driver before he or anyone else gets hurt. They lay down spike strips just before the next curve.
He's just waiting for the flatland area up here right around these curves.
The boy swerves to avoid the strips and sends the bus into a spin.
Have they roll fire medical?
With guns drawn, officers run through the dust toward the crashed bus. The kid isn't seriously injured, but the bus door is jammed. You can hear officers try to break in. Finally, they get to the kid. The desert drama finally comes to an end, but the boy's problems are just beginning. Inside his backpack, officers reportedly find ammunition and written plans to blow up his school. The teenager is charged with assault with a deadly weapon and grand larceny. If convicted as an adult, he faces up to 50 years in prison.
Violated the probation, and they got warrants for him.
Deputy Joe Smiley is the last person a probation violator in Bay County, Florida wants to see.
They violated your probation.
Why?
I don't know why they violated you, stuff. You was being honest to me. We ain't got no choice but to take you down there.
At first, the man reacts calmly when told he's going to jail.
You call anybody for you?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, I call you out. I'll let you talk to you, okay?
Suddenly, the man bolts.
Yeah, I call you out. I'll let you talk to you, okay?
And the foot race is on. The pursuit continues for many blocks. The alleged probation violator outruns the cameraman, but not Deputy Smiley.
Now listen to me. I'm asking one more time. If you resist me again, I'm gonna put you on the ground.
What looked like an uneventful arrest
We ain't got no choice but to take you down there. You call anybody for you? Okay?
turned into an exhausting foot pursuit. But it ends as usual, as Deputy Smiley gets his man.
I'm asking one more time. If you resist me again, I'm gonna put you on the ground.
Police pursue a suspected car thief in Tallapoosa, Georgia. The driver brakes repeatedly as he struggles to keep from running off the dimly lit road. He picks up speed where he can, trying to put as much distance as possible between himself and the police. The officer is right on his tail as the dirt road narrows. The suspect plows down the path, clipping trees and kicking up leaves and dirt. The cars make contact. Then, the suspect accelerates blindly through the woods. Again, the officer catches up. This time he rams the stolen vehicle hard, but can't force it off the path. He hits the fleeing car one more time. The suspect tries to keep going, but gets bogged down in a muddy field. He's rolling again as the officer arrives and orders him out of the car. Even at gunpoint, the defiant suspect refuses to surrender. The officer shoots out his tires. But even that doesn't stop him. With his tires in tatters, the suspect disappears into the pitch-black night again. He later abandoned his vehicle and was tracked down. He was charged with 12 violations, including auto theft and, not surprisingly, reckless driving. Right around the corner on disorderly conduct, the scariest day in an officer's life.
My thought was that if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna die.
And a Sin City sucker punch leads to a mass beating. Lots more disorderly conduct is just moments away. Tallahassee, Florida. Police officer Chuck Perry pulls over two men he saw acting suspiciously outside a bank. What happens next is one of the most horrifying police dramas ever captured on tape. Suddenly, the passenger jumps out, firing from a gun in each hand. As bullets head straight for him, Officer Perry slams it into reverse.
I thought to myself, I'm about to be shot. And it was not a good feeling. I mean, it was a pit in my stomach, and I was thinking, at any second now, there's gonna be a round ripping through this car and hitting me.
To make matters worse, the officer can't fire back because a child on a bicycle is dangerously close to his line of fire.
I've just been fired at. The car's been hit several times. The blue Ford Crown Vic I have been shot at. A tag on the vehicle.
He refuses to let the men get away, and a pursuit is on. Backup is several miles away, and now Officer Perry finds himself alone against two men who could try to kill him again at any moment. Suddenly, the suspects stop, and the passenger jumps out again, this time with a rifle. Bullets hit the squad car's electrical system, causing both the dash cam and, more importantly, Officer Perry's vehicle to lose power.
My thought was that if I don't get out of here, I'm going to die.
Fortunately, the officer is able to regain some power when he accelerates, but now his car only travels at half speed. Officer Perry can only watch as the suspects speed away.
We're on Mission Road. He's fired several times at me already.
Then he sees help on the way in his rearview mirror. He radios a warning to his buddy as he passes.
He's up in front. Be careful. Be careful.
Then up ahead, the pursuit comes to a crashing halt. The suspects slam into a truck, and their car careens onto a construction site. The men are injured, but they're still alive and presumed dangerous. When he arrives on the scene, Officer Perry makes sure everyone knows who they're dealing with.
Mike, he tried to kill me! Mike, the passenger has tried to kill me. Watch his left hand,
As police surround the vehicle, Perry moves in for the arrest.
You're going to die! You're going to die if you move!
I was ready to shoot. There was no doubt in my mind, if he'd have moved, I would have shot him.
Moments later, the drama ends with the arrest of a father-son team of suspected bank robbers.
Daddy, try to shoot me, man.
Yes, this is one of the most frightening instances I've had in 17 to 18 years as a cop.
Inside their car, officers find assault rifles, pistols, and enough ammunition for an extended gun battle. The father who shot at Officer Perry receives 3 consecutive life sentences. His son gets 20 years in prison. As for Officer Perry, he's later named Florida's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year for his handling of this incident. It's long after midnight in the parking lot of the MGM Grand Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. A groundskeeper at the wheel of a cart watches as several youths pass by on foot. He steps out, but has to throw the brake on the cart to keep it from rolling away. Seconds later, a young man creeps around behind him. The sucker punch is followed by a vicious beating from others joining the attack. The man is chased down, but he will survive with minor injuries. As 2 girls look on, one attacker tries to steal the cart, but can't get it started. The girls then join the attack, each getting in a kick at the victim along with the would-be cart thief. As quickly as it began, the attackers melt away, leaving the man lying on the pavement. Police later identified and arrested at least 10 of the attackers. They found out that some were involved in similar beatings in the area on the same weekend, including a shooting which sent one victim to the hospital. Amazingly, the groundskeeper is still conscious and not seriously injured, suffering a broken jaw and collarbone. He is able to walk away. A crazed carjacker is on the loose in Riverdale, Georgia. The suspect stole this SUV from a woman stopped at a red light after he threw her onto the pavement. She was able to get to safety and call 911, and now the chase is on. The suspect swerves across lanes, cuts across corners, and sends the SUV flying. Police are convinced he's drunk, and his driving proves their theory correct. He takes turns too fast and eventually pays the price. He completely loses control, and the SUV ends up on the left shoulder. But before the vehicle comes to a complete stop, the guy makes a run for it. He takes off into the night, but officers capture him moments later in the brush. The man is booked for vehicle theft, aggravated assault, and reckless driving. And it turns out the police were right about his general condition. Police say he was so drunk that they had to hold up his head for the mugshot. Next up on disorderly conduct, this wrong way trip is really the pits. And robbery suspects make a not so clean getaway. No use crying over spilled beer. There's more disorderly conduct moments away. It's a snowy night in Bloomington, Minnesota, and this officer drives into a very dangerous situation. Cops chase a suspected drunk driver in a stolen pickup, and he crosses the snow-covered median into oncoming traffic. That's the reportedly stolen truck. The officer makes a decisive move. He executes a pit maneuver. The precision immobilization technique. Now the truck accelerates back down the freeway. At least it now heads in the right direction at 95 miles an hour. The officer closes the gap to try another pit maneuver. But the truck accelerates away. The officer makes his move again. Once more, he spins him out. And once more, the suspect takes off at high speed, heading through town. He slides onto a snow-covered residential street. And suddenly, the chase is over. The officer bumps and blocks the truck. The suspect is quickly arrested. It turns out he had good reason to try to outrun the police. He's only been out of jail for 4 months after serving 4 years for another DUI. He was involved in a fatal crash that killed his passenger. He now faces 2 counts of first-degree DUI, 1 count of fleeing from police, and 1 count of receiving stolen property. 2 young guys pulling for a tank of gas at this convenience store in Jefferson County, Missouri. Surveillance cameras watch the passenger walk inside as the driver waits by the truck. Once the tank is full, the driver backs the truck up to the store with the passenger door wide open. Meanwhile, inside, the young man strolls the store. He waits until the clerk is busy, then helps himself to a large case of beer. Suddenly, he bolts with the beer. Or so he thinks. The driver puts the pedal to the metal a little too hard and sends both his buddy and the beer flying. To add insult to injury, his so-called partner takes off. Both suspects were caught the next morning and were charged with misdemeanor stealing for the theft of the beer and gas. There's no word on whether the 2 were still speaking. Police in Los Angeles tail a suspected stolen car. The driver leads officers on a dangerous trek through city streets. Any car chase puts the public at risk. But this one has even greater potential for disaster since the person behind the wheel is a 14-year-old girl. The inexperienced driver and her teen passenger speed through residential areas. They roll through stop signs, intersections, drive on the wrong side of the road, and up and over sidewalks. Motorists do what they can to get out of their way, but sometimes they can't. The officer in this cruiser sees an opportunity to end the chase, and he takes it. He pulls alongside the rear bumper of the vehicle and executes a perfect pit maneuver. The car spins out and runs over a bicycle. The owner of the mangled bike jumps to safety just seconds before the crash. Police move in and pin the suspects against the curb. The teenage girls are ordered out of the car at gunpoint and taken into custody. No one was injured during this joyride. Credit that to plain luck and a perfect pit, not the driving skills of a 14-year-old. In Tampa, Florida, police run the license plate of this van and discover the vehicle to be stolen. But as they put on their lights and sirens, the van takes off, and the suspect cuts down a dirt road at a speed of more than 60 miles an hour. The van hits a dead end. So with nowhere to go, the driver decides to cut through someone's backyard. The suspect tries to shake the officer by driving through some clusters of trees, but it doesn't work. The officer sticks right on his tail. After navigating through the trees, the driver finds an exit, and once again, the chase is back on the road. But this run for freedom comes to a crashing end. As the driver attempts to run the stop sign, another cruiser runs into him dead on. Then the cruiser from behind pins him in. Officers get out and quickly apprehend the suspect. He's charged with grand theft auto, felony fleeing, and possession of burglary tools. Not to mention $15,000 in damages to the patrol cars and to the stolen van. Coming at you next on Disorderly Conduct, an officer is forced to use ultimate force. And you won't believe what turns up in this guy's trunk.
You not carrying any kind of weapons or anything like that, are you?
Don't go away. There's more Disorderly Conduct coming up. A scuffle breaks out during a traffic stop in West Palm Beach, Florida. As the driver tries to escape, the officer grabs him by the shirt. Suddenly, a shot rings out. It happens so quickly, it warrants a second look. When the officer discovers the man has a warrant for his arrest, he asks for his driver's license. After the officer grabs his shirt, the two swing each other around in a desperate struggle. Then, the man shoves the officer into the side of the car. The officer later says his hand was pinned under his body, and he feared for his life. He fires one shot in self-defense, which strikes the suspect. The out-of-breath officer calls for help.
Give me an ambulance here.
The man is treated at the scene and later rushed to the hospital in critical condition. But despite being shot at close range, he survives. It turns out the man had an extensive criminal record. As for the officer, a grand jury later clears him of any wrongdoing in the incident. In Campbell County, Tennessee, Deputy Randy Baird catches himself a speeder.
The reason I stopped you running 81 when you came by me back there. Literally not paying attention. Okay, I can't hardly hear you. Can you step out and step back so I can hear you better? Are you from Miami? Yes, sir.
The speeder informs the deputy that he is on his way to Miami and that the car belongs to his friend.
Okay. You have his registration good? Chance, can you get it for me?
The man is very cooperative, maybe a little too cooperative.
It's going a little bit fast, I know. Yeah. The 81's real fast on a holiday weekend. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write you a citation, okay? Because at that speed, you know, I just about can't do nothing else for you, okay? But I'll tell you what I will do. I will cut you a break, and I'll write you down.
Deputy Baird issues the speeder a ticket, but before he lets the guy go, his keen instinct kicks in.
I just try to slow down. Okay. Okay. Have a good trip. Sir? Yes. You're not carrying any kind of weapons or anything like that, are you? Not at all, sir. You don't have nothing at all in the vehicle? Any narcotics or a large amount of currency or nothing like that at all? You consent to search of the vehicle? You consent to a search to see if you have anything like that? If you want. You don't care for me searching the car? Okay. You care to have...
After a brief search, the deputy appears to have found something.
Your friend that owns the car, he doesn't smoke marijuana or anything like that, does he? No. As far as you know, he don't. Because it looks like in the glove compartment there, I found a little bit of green paint material. It looks like it might be marijuana.
Now, Deputy Baird and a fellow officer have cause to give the vehicle a thorough inspection while the man sits in the back of the cruiser and watches. Although the search comes up empty, the deputy isn't convinced that the man is innocent, so he brings in his trusted dog, Marco.
Where's it at? Find it.
Marco is trained to find drugs. He sniffs out something in the trunk underneath the lining. The officers pull it back and discover a secret compartment with a very unexpected surprise.
Trooper Roberts took his knife and we trimmed this out right here. And when we opened it up, is what you see is a freezer bag. The zipper is what the word is. With, it looks like paper in it. And when we move the paper, what blues to be right now looks like money, currency.
Back at the station, officers open things up from underneath and hit the jackpot.
Oh, baby. Oh, man. We got about a half meal here, at least.
There must have been drugs in or around the cash, or the dog would have never found the money.
They got a bag, 25 bags so far. 3, 4, 5, 6,
31 bags of cash at a value of $897,000. It's the biggest seizure in Tennessee patrol history.
Is that all?
I got that.
I got his first one.
What do you mean is that?
Anyone can try to claim the cash within 21 days, but no one does. That means the sheriff's department gets to keep 80% of the fine, about $717,000. This Tennessee highway is one of the major interstates used to ship drugs to other states. The alleged courier was only given a citation for possession of marijuana and released. Believe it or not, he too never made an effort to claim the cash. In fact, he disappeared shortly after making bail.
We got about a half meal here, at least. Within 500.
Next, on disorderly conduct, a guardrail is put to the test. And it's safe to say that this guy won't win any spelling bees.
Can you say the alphabet straight through from A to Z?
More letter-perfect disorderly conduct is straight ahead. Police in Ferndale, Michigan pursue a man they suspect is driving with fake license plates. Moments earlier, he pulled away from a traffic stop, ran a stop sign, and slammed head-on into a guardrail. An attempted pit maneuver failed, but did manage to flatten the car's right rear tire. That's 3 hits to a car that's still running from the law. He blows through a red light with ease. But look out, here comes another guardrail. The car nearly flips on impact. But the driver is lucky enough to escape uninjured. He's arrested for fleeing with the bogus plates and for 2 outstanding drug warrants. But it was the 2 outstanding guardrails that really did him in. A man enters a cash loan store in Las Vegas. This guy is hoping to get some money, but he has no intentions of paying it back. Once inside, he surprises the clerk by whipping out a small caliber handgun. But clerk Paul Smith has a surprise of his own when he proves that when it comes to guns, size does matter.
I decided that I would show him my large caliber handgun.
That's when the man suddenly lunges at Smith. In the scuffle, the gun is knocked away from the would-be thief and ends up on the floor.
At that point, he was disarmed. I was clearly not.
At least this defeated desperado knows when to call it quits.
Then he ran like a scared 10-year-old girl.
In the end, no one is hurt and no money is lost. As for the usually mild-mannered clerk, he has a warning for anyone else who tries to mess with him.
My job is not to let some come in with a gun and try to make me a victim.
I'd like to see your driver's license, sir. I'm a police officer.
An officer in Madison, Wisconsin, questions a suspected DUI found parked on the side of the road.
How long have you been here? Excuse me? How long have you been here in the vehicle?
The suspect is doing what many people do when pulled over. He's praying, but it's not having much effect.
You okay, sir? Listen to what I'm saying. No, I don't want a Hail Mary or a Hallelujah. I want to know how long you've been here. Not Hail Mary.
Okay. What would you like?
I want your driver's license first of all.
Okay.
Now.
Hail Mary for the grace?
I want your driver's license now.
Outside the truck, he faces some more questions.
Do you have any idea what time it is right now?
1990.
1992. How much have you had to drink tonight?
No, about, I had to put it down to 5, I guess about 6 minutes.
The officer has encountered a true man of mystery.
Where is your driver's license?
Where is my driver's license?
Yeah.
To my left.
Where to your left? Do you understand what I'm saying? Where is your driver's license?
Meanwhile, the night wears on.
What time is it right now? 1996. Have you been through high school?
Moving right along to the next challenge.
Can you say the alphabet straight through from A to Z?
Let's see. 1996, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101.
The officer decides to stick with numbers.
I want you to start counting at 9, count up to 20, then count back to 13, and then stop.
5, 13, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. Hold on. Even it is.
It's safe to say that the officer has not been fooled by this performance. The suspect is put in cuffs and charged with DUI, and at least one mystery is put to rest.
Here's your wallet.
Okay, well, I kind of figured that.
Sunday.